fantastic to have everyone here for the first Health and Wellbeing Week that we're celebrating here at the Digital Greenhouse, and the first event for Health and Wellbeing Week. We're joined by Daniel White, who will be talking to us about sleep, and I think that's something that we're particularly interested in at the moment. I think a lot of people have had quite a few challenges, particularly with the pandemic, with lockdowns, with a lot more use of technology, and thinking about how we can balance our lives is something that's really interesting. And I think will be a fantastic conversation this morning. We would like to have a conversation, so please do use the Q&A button at the bottom. I think Dan will then take questions at the end. So if you do have questions, please do pop them in. Do say hi in the chat. And we are recording today's presentation, so you're able to watch it back at a later date as well. So Dan, I shall pass over to you. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here today and presenting for Digital Greenhouse on the first of the Wellbeing Week events. And yes, we're here to talk all about sleep today. I thought that I would blend today's presentation a little bit because I wanted to talk not only about some of the science of sleep and really, raise some important and key research discussing particularly sleep in the workplace and its impact not only on our performance but also on our health. But as well as this, looking at some of the latest innovations in the health tech space, one in particular that our organisation uses, and a recent trial that we've been running with a big organisation working with the States in Guernsey. So I thought I would kind of use today's session to split it up and talk a little bit about some of the, the important facts and theory, give you guys a little bit of actionable information to take away to perhaps improve your sleep, but then also discuss the wider framework of some of the work that we've been doing with local organisations. So I will dive in. Oops, there we go. So unfortunately, I am not joined by my right-hand man today. So myself and my partner, Jamie, are pictured in the bottom right here. About 18 months ago now, we came together and I had founded an organisation called Sleep Better, Live Better. This was kind of under the umbrella of myself as a practitioner under the brand of Daniel White Health. And I had seen a massive explosion in the need for people to become educated and better equipped with tools that could help them to improve their sleep. This was just before the pandemic. And it's fair to say that I think since COVID has hit us, the need to be more aware of the impact that in particularly technology and our lifestyle has on our sleep has grown exponentially since. But myself and Jamie, who you can see pictured in the bottom right here, have been working on this business idea for about 18 months now. So our aim is really to provide effective and evidence-based educational programs and products, both of which I'll talk to you a little bit about today, that can contribute towards a shift in the way that the world is sleeping. There are lots of fantastic organisations out there in communities globally who are contributing towards this shift, and we want to be another one of those. And we really, really, truly believe that, for everybody to be able to fulfill their potential, to feel healthy, happy and loved, and we all need to begin our day on the foundation of a good night's sleep. And as I mentioned, since the COVID-19 pandemic, it's increasingly surprising the amount of people whose sleep has been disrupted. And as a result, not only are we experiencing, increased stress levels in many areas of our lives, but a deterioration in health and a kind of compounding of these impacts because of the lack of high quality sleep. Just to introduce myself more formally, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Daniel White. I'm a registered nutritionist and I'm also a functional medicine certified health coach. What does that mean? Functional medicine is an area of modern medicine, if you like, that looks at root cause medicine. So we look at our body as biological and holistic systems. So I'm really interested and have always been interested in the impact of nutrition, of sleep, of stress, of relationships, of the environment, and looking at the wider picture of how that impacts our body as an organism, as opposed to some more conventional methods in medicine where we would look at, for example, symptom suppression, or we might, separate all the different systems of our body to look at specialisms. In functional medicine, we're looking at really getting to the root cause of a lot of what's ailing people, and particularly in the world of sleep. And for the last 2 years, I think it is now really, I've been working with individuals and organizations, more recently since COVID, across the globe actually, to help them optimize their performance and build more robust health, and through training and educating them about how to achieve natural, healthy sleep in a holistic way. And these are some of the organizations locally, like I said, and globally that I've been working with to achieve this. Now, before I dive into telling you guys a little bit about sleep, I just kind of want to ask you one fundamental question, right? And I think it's something that needs to be addressed. Essentially, is why would you want to learn to sleep better? There are so many things competing for your motivation, your attention, your time, your effort right now in the world. Why should sleep be that one thing, or be one of the things that you really weigh heavily in terms of your time allocation, in terms of wanting to learn more about? And I always begin a lot of my talks by kind of giving people this understanding that if you all stopped now for just one moment and thought about 3 of the top priorities in your life, so maybe just scribble them down on a piece of paper, or just make a mental note of 3 of those things that are, 3 of the things that you value most, 3 of the things that are the most important to you in your life. And I always say to people, a couple of quick examples might be, your family, maybe your newborn child, maybe your young kids or teenagers, maybe your husband, your wife, extended family members, parents. Your career might be important to you, so your ability to perform at the top of your game, whether you're working in financial services industry, whether you're a frontline healthcare worker, perhaps your fitness. Perhaps that might be important to you. So these are 3 things that stand out to people quite regularly, but there are lots and many different examples as well. And what I often say to people is, if you were to just take one moment to find out how sleep is so important and interconnected to those priorities in your life, you could jump on Google, or you could jump on PubMed, which is an academic research database, and you could just type in sleep plus that thing that you care about. So in this case, a quick search was sleep and family. Another search might be sleep and performance. And really, if you spend that time, even 5 minutes of your day, you'll very quickly learn that every single thing that you value in your life is directly tied to your ability to achieve a good night's sleep. And this is one of the things that myself and my partner, Jamie, really reflected on when we began developing and building our company. Was, we thought about all of the mothers and all of the fathers, and the teachers and the students and the leaders and the politicians, and everybody who fulfills a role within our society and contributes towards, the betterment of not only our society, but also the human race globally. And we wondered, what impact could we have if we were able to improve people's sleep by even 5%? Or 10% or 15%, or even more in the case of a lot of the people that I've worked with? What impact would that have on their ability to deliver their gifts to the world, essentially? Because sleep is kind of like the rising tide that lifts all of the ships in the harbor. So it doesn't matter what you feel that you're here to do on this planet. Sleep is an integral part of your ability to achieve your goals. Now, why is that? Well, the research, let's be honest, is startling. There is tons and tons of it that's been coming out for the last decade, looking at the impact that sleep has on almost every single area and jurisdiction of our health, whether it's our heart health and our stress levels, our chances of experiencing heart disease, heart attacks, our blood pressure, our memory and learning, our ability to actually create and lay down new memories, to move memory from short-term into long-term, to help us stay attentive and concentrate and learn, whether that's in the workplace or in schools, for a lot of children whose sleep has seriously been derailed a lot in the last 18 months, especially. Our mental health, is a topic that we've become more accustomed to discussing for the last couple of years. But did you know that sleep regulates all of the hormones and the chemical messengers, the brain chemicals, the neurotransmitters that influence mood disorders? So the research shows that there isn't one single aspect of our mental health or one single diagnosis of a mental health condition that isn't somehow interrelated to a disruption in our sleep, which is very interesting. Obviously, in the last 18 months, we've spoken so much about the immune system, the need to wash our hands, the need to, stay clean, and the need to social distance, and perhaps less so the need to, eat healthily and exercise and get high quality sleep. Because what we know is that poor quality sleep deprivation, leads to an increase in chronic inflammation and decreases the activity of what we call natural killer cells, which are our body's first line of defense. So this really increases the risk of illness and conditions such as autoimmunity as well. So sleep may actually be one of the first line defenses against, the contraction and the impact that COVID might have on us as individuals. There's also, reason to believe that detoxification within our brain that takes place through a system called the glymphatic system is really upregulated whilst we are in deep and restful states of sleep. So our ability to actually clear out toxic substances from our brain that accumulate all throughout the day is dictated by our ability to get high quality sleep at night. One of the funniest quotes that I once read from one of my teachers was that actually being awake is low level brain damage, because every day there's all of these biochemical reactions going on in our brains, and our body and our system needs to be able to clear out a lot of the waste products that are associated with those. And then also our metabolism. So many of us will know that our ability to control our cravings, to feel full and satisfied, to regulate our body weight, control our blood sugar levels, all of these things are largely impacted by our sleep. So we know already, and we have known for quite some decades, that sleep touches every single area of our health. Although one of the problems I think that have developed here is that there has been so much information which has essentially come from meaningly or not, a fear-based narrative towards our sleep, that we must sleep better in order to avoid many complications with our health. Not as much has been done in terms of providing practical, evidence-based and kind of, usable, I guess, information that can actually help us to improve, which is one of the core aims of our organisation. But that's just looking at a little bit of the impacts on health. Now, health is obviously synonymous with our ability to achieve in the workplace, to look after our families, and to really, I suppose, deliver our purpose in life. But what about in the workplace? There's also lots and lots of research showing that cognitively we're impaired if we're unable to achieve high quality sleep. So again, our ability to concentrate and learn and retain and process information is largely disrupted. Also, we're more emotionally unstable. So higher levels of interpersonal conflict among team members, increased risk of suffering burnout at any level in the organization, and poorer mental health. Our ability to actually create, effective judgments and make right decisions. Even our ability to carry out ethical behavior can be compromised when we are underslept. As well as lots of research that's been shown linking increases in errors, accidents, and injury to poorer sleep. And also this idea of absenteeism and presenteeism. So absenteeism is quite clear, and that somebody may not be in the workplace as a result of being ill, and this may be largely tied to their inability to achieve deep and restful sleep. But also this concept of presenteeism, and this is something that's much harder to put a number or a figure on. And this is where we're really looking at lowered productivity levels as a result of individuals within organisations being excessively tired and being excessively burnt out, and therefore being unable to be productive, and perhaps being present, but not really being able to deliver the work that they're capable of. And as mentioned, in the long term, how do these chronic health issues, such as chronic pain, obesity, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, dementia, Alzheimer's, how did these impact the organisations that we work for now? How did these impact our societies, our governments? And how are they going to impact us more and more in the future, as research shows that rates of these conditions only continue to rise, as does decrease in our sleep qualities. There's this, absolutely intimate link between these two things that's going on. But when we move away from a more fear-based narrative, when we move away from research that talks of, the dangers of not getting enough sleep, we can begin to talk about it in a more positive light. So we can begin to look at how all aspects of our body, our mind, and our spirit can be improved when we take the time to learn how to sleep better. Whether we want to think more creatively and innovatively to be able to, come up with ideas that are kind of outside of the box, or whether we are, committed to focus and attention in our learning, in our work, with our family, with our children, with our friends, All of these things are improved when we achieve high quality sleep. And I know this for sure because I've just been on a weekend trip to Sark where I was completely offline, no mobile phone, no laptop. And I spent a lot of time sleeping. And I think I was catching up on a lot of sleep as a result of, having worked really hard over the last couple of months. And I can already feel that I'm far more, engaged and feel far more aligned and alert now that I'm back after a little bit of higher quality rest. In terms of, our spiritual behavior, we have higher willpower, more positive and less fearful, more emotionally stable and more ethical in our decision making. So that better world that we really want to create, that can be achieved, by each one of us when we achieve better quality sleep. But as well as that, many of us are, interested in keeping our body fit and healthy, whether it's aesthetically or, avoiding disease and burden in the long term, being able to run around, being able to keep on top of our workload, being able to, spend time with the family, young individuals in the family in particular, avoid diseases, avoid illness, avoid COVID. All of these things, are going to be a greater chance, I suppose, of us experiencing more positivity in the areas when we do take the time to learn how to sleep better. Now, sleep, now that we've done a bit of kind of data sharing, I suppose, on some of the important impacts of sleep, I want to talk more about how sleep generally works. And I really want to focus in today on this concept of our circadian rhythm and also the impact that light exposure has on this. So our sleep is largely driven by a force within us called our circadian rhythm. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that in a second, but essentially it is our body's 24-hour clock system. So deep within our brains, there is an area called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Not expecting you guys to remember that name by any means, but it is an area that controls our body's circadian rhythm or our 24-hour body clock. So the word circadian actually comes from the Latin. Circa means approximately and diem means a day. So this is the internal 24-hour clock that really controls how our body functions. And what it does is it interprets different cues from our environment. And we call these cues Zeitgebers. It's a German word that means time giver. And what happens is this information is picked up by our sensory organs and it's relayed to our brain's hypothalamus where this SCN, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, lives. And this is where our body's master 24-hour clock resides. So every single living species on Earth has a 24-hour circadian rhythm, and it's the product of millions of years of evolution. It is largely because our Earth has been spinning on its axis in a 24-hour-ish kind of cycle for about 3.7 billion years now. And so the way that our environment changes over the 24-hour period of each day is what controls and impacts the 24-hour clock within our bodies. Now, just to have a little look back at this slide, there are lots of things that are controlled by this clock. So when we begin to wind down to fall asleep, when we achieve our deepest sleep, when we're most alert and actually best focused and coordinated to work, when we're most physically capable, all of these different things are controlled and impacted by our 24-hour rhythm. And largely, the most obvious outward manifestation of this rhythm is our sleep, which should occur on a 24-hour basis. So really, before anything else, as I always begin when I'm educating people about sleep and trying to teach them the kind of fundamentals, in order to sleep well and to thrive both mentally and physically inside and outside of the workplace, you really need your body's 24-hour rhythm to be functioning correctly. So these days in the media, there's a lot of talk of the impact of lavender pillow sprays or chamomile teas or, hugging robots or sleep watches and sleep gadgets. And there is lots of emphasis placed on kind of intangible, if you like, things that don't really impact our sleep that much. But really, I always begin and try to educate people about the fundamental foundational knowledge that you need to have of your circadian rhythm, this 24-hour clock, and how it functions in order to sleep better. Now, by and large, the most important factor in your life that is controlling your 24-hour biological clock, your ability to achieve high quality sleep, to wind down and to wake up appropriately at different times of the day, is light exposure. So this is a growing area of interest for researchers, and I think public health generally. It's not something that has been regarded as very important for a very long time, but what we're beginning to understand now is that actually it's light exposure which controls how our body functions. So not only are the foods that we eat very important, not only is the exercise that we carry out in our lives very important, and the relaxation, perhaps the stress management that we carry out on a daily basis, but more important perhaps than any of these is the timing of our 24-hour body clock, which impacts all of the systems of our body, most especially our sleep, and how it's governed by exposure to natural light. So put it this way, guys, every single day for hundreds of thousands of years, and when we were hunter-gatherers, which was basically 99.9% of the time we've existed on Earth as a species, our body was exposed to natural light very early in the morning as soon as the sun rose. It's because we lived basically outdoors. And what happened when your eyes pick up the signal of natural light is that these light waves travel from your eyes up into the brain to that area called the SCN, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and that sets and that programs your clock, your internal 24-hour body clock. And when you achieve natural light in the mornings, this helps to boost your alertness and your focus and your mood, so that as a caveman, I could go out and hunt and fish and gather and really carry out all of those behaviors that I needed to survive. These days, we're obviously going to work, and we want to be able to think creatively. We want to be able to stay focused and productive and alert and attentive. We want to have high energy levels. We don't want to be falling asleep at our desks in the morning. And all of these things are achieved by getting exposure to natural light in the morning. So it's natural light that sets and pegs the beginning of our day by informing our brain that it's time to get up and go. So when we expose ourselves to natural light, we actually produce a few different chemicals within the body. One of them is dopamine, and then there's serotonin, also endorphins, and a hormone called cortisol. And together, those things, that symphony of these chemicals, helps to get us going, if you like. Now, for most of the time that we've existed as a species, after the light came dark. So after the sun had risen and the sun had moved throughout the sky over the day, then it was time for the sun to set again. And after sunset, the only light that we would have had available in our environment until the following sunrise was moonlight. And moonlight, is enough to perhaps light your environment a little bit, to be able to see, to move around, but there is not a large presence of light in our environment towards and after sunset. And really, this signal of darkness was like the flip side of the coin. So while sunlight and natural light help to wake our brain up and to set our rhythms so that all of the functions of our body could work correctly during the daytime, it's darkness at night which helped to signal to our brain to wind down and produce different hormones that prepared us for sleep and high quality recovery. So one of those most important hormones is called melatonin. You might have heard of this before. This is kind of colloquially known as our sleep hormone, if you like. Now, we produce melatonin in response to the darkness. And one of the biggest problems that we had in the modern world, essentially, and one of the reasons that our sleep has been solidly deteriorating for about the last 120 years, but especially the last 10 or 15, is because of a massive increase in exposure to artificial light in our environment. Essentially, if we're exposed to any form of artificial light, particularly LED lights, which are very popular because of their energy efficiency, almost every home in every country in the world is filled with LED lights. Our mobile phones, our laptop screens, our overhead, strip lights in offices, even the little light in our fridge that we use when we get our midnight snack. All of these are artificial lights. And what they do is they mimic sunlight. And so when we expose ourselves to these types of light after sunset, it completely disrupts our 24-hour body clock, and it convinces and confuses our brain into thinking that it's still daytime. And as a result, this increases cortisol, which is the daytime hormone, which can make us feel more stressed, and it suppresses our sleep hormone melatonin. So it really sends a signal to our brain that says it's still daytime. So this is fundamentally the most important disruption which has occurred in our lifestyles in the last 120 years since the invention of electricity and the light bulb, that has massively begun to displace how circadian rhythms and how humans' internal body clocks work. And as a result, our sleep quality has been demolished. Now, really interestingly, they've done a lot of research looking at the impact of artificial light. And in this one study, what they did was they took healthy adults into a laboratory environment. So let's imagine that I took all of you watching this into a lab. And for the first 5 nights, I would ask you to read on your blue lit iPad for 2 hours before bed. And then for the following 5 nights, I would ask you to read on your paperback book. So we've got 2 different conditions here. For the first 5 nights, you're reading a very bright iPad screen, much like a computer screen or an LED light or a mobile phone or any other form of bright, basically artificial lighting that we could compare it to around the home or kind of in our environment at large. And then for the second night, I'm going to ask you to read just a regular paperback book with a kind of dimly lit light in the background. Now, what was interesting is they found that reading on an iPad before bed, so exposing yourself to this LED blue light, it reduced sleep quality. It took these participants longer to fall asleep, and they felt less rested and sleepier throughout the following days. So they actually produced 50% less melatonin. And melatonin being our chief sleep hormone, it is the hormone which prepares us for high quality sleep. And the more melatonin that we can produce essentially each night, and particularly over the course of our lifetime, the higher quality recovery we're going to have and the greater quality of health we're going to achieve. So not only was their circadian rhythm, their internal 24-hour clock delayed because of exposure to the wrong type of light at the wrong time of day, but it also led to what we call digital hangover effect, because it took these people longer to wind down in the evening. And as a result, their internal body clock was displaced. So the next morning, they were still in kind of shutdown mode as opposed to beginning to wind themselves back up again. So this is just looking at, one piece of evidence, of which there are many now, demonstrating how dangerous artificial light is in terms of impacting our sleep quality and our overall health. But this isn't a new phenomenon, guys. Harvard University have been researching this for quite a long time now. So they found that artificial light at night, or ALAN, as they prefer to call it, little nickname there, suppresses melatonin and disrupts the circadian rhythm. But they found that not all colors had the same impact. So they found that for every hour of exposure to what we call blue light, which is one wavelength of visible light for the human eye, this suppressed melatonin by about 30 minutes. So now you've got to imagine that, in the winter, for example, it can get dark at 5 p.m. and we might be in front of computers, televisions, laptops, LED lights around the house, all manner of these kind of things between 5 p.m. and when we go to sleep at, say, 11 p.m. Now, that's 6 hours of exposure to the wrong type of light. And that can mean up to 3 hours suppression of the time that we would actually be winding down and falling asleep, as well as, up to a 50% or even more suppression in the amount of sleep hormone that we're creating to achieve high quality sleep. So our exposure to artificial light in the evening is, by and large, the most significant disruptor of our sleep, and many of us aren't even aware of the impact that this has. So it's absolutely enormous. Now, I wanted to share with you guys, before I go into talking a little bit about the research that I'm doing with the local organisation, 3 steps that you can take based on the information that I've just shared to help you to improve your sleep. Because I think these are 3 pieces of information that I want to share with the world. I want everybody to know about this. I want you guys to go out there and share this with your family, with your friends, with your teenagers, with your children, with your colleagues, everybody, because they are 3 pieces of advice that could make our society a much, much better place to live in and make our lives much healthier and happier. The first is for you to get natural light exposure first thing in the morning. So your body requires somewhere between 15 and 30 minutes of light exposure, preferably in the 2 hours after sunrise, to help set your body's circadian rhythm. So by getting yourself into natural light as soon as possible after you wake up, this is the best thing that you can do to basically begin your body's biological clocks to help you feel more focused, energized, alert, motivated, and happy. If you don't get that exposure to natural light, which means not from behind a computer screen, not from behind a piece of glass, not from behind sunglasses, but direct exposure of light from the sun, even if it's through the clouds, even if it's overcast outside, onto your eyeballs, then you will not be able to live in the greatest state of health. And as a result, the knock-on impact that's going to have on your work, on your relationships with yourself and others is huge. So the first thing I recommend to everybody is that when you get up in the morning, you step outside, even if it's into the back garden, even if it's, winding the window down in the car or opening a window in your kitchen, and let that natural light come through the clouds or directly from the sun onto your face and into your eyes. Really, really important. This is the necessary groundwork for high quality sleep later that evening, because what it does is it sets your circadian rhythm so that about 12, 14, 16 hours later, your brain knows when to begin to produce its sleep hormone, melatonin. So it needs to get anchored in first thing in the morning so that the 24-hour process of producing daytime chemicals and then nighttime chemicals can run exactly as it should. My next piece of advice would be to get outside into natural light during the daytime. So every time that you step outside, out of the office, even if it's for 5 minutes, 10-minute walk around the break on your around the block on your lunch, when you get exposure to this natural light, it continues to affirm for your brain and your body what time of day it is. So it continues to strengthen that 24-hour rhythm within you. Now, we didn't get a huge opportunity to talk today about the impact that this rhythm has on every other area of your health, but it's not only your sleep and your mood and your energy levels, also things such as your digestion, your libido, and every other function of your body is controlled by the 24-hour clock in your brain. So the stronger you can keep that clock, by exposing yourself to lots of natural light in the morning, especially first thing in the morning, but also throughout the daytime, the better. And I also liken this to kind of like your mobile phone, right? So if your mobile phone was running low on battery, you would go and plug it into the wall because you don't want your battery to run out. And the human brain is a little bit like this with sunlight. So quite often we'll sit in front of artificial light like I am now. I've got strip lights above me, artificial light in front of me. I'm sat away working on my computer or my laptop, arguably all morning. And then my battery is going to begin to run low on my brain because these are things that are quite tiring, take up a lot of energy. And every time I step outside into natural light, even for a 10-minute kind of walk around the block, this is actually recharging my brain so that when I get back into the afternoon's kind of work pattern, or, I disconnect from work to go and see my children after school or whatever happens, you are more fully recharged and your energy has been less drained by artificial light. So step 1, get outside in the morning first thing. Step 2, just find 5 or 10 minutes here and there throughout the daytime to expose yourself to more natural light. And step 3, arguably the most important step, is to think about how you can remove or filter artificial light in your nighttime environment. So some of the easiest ways to do this are to turn off kind of bright LED bulbs around your house. So right now, above me, I'm just going to tip my screen backwards. I'm sure you guys can see these LED strip lights. Now, if this was evening time and these lights were present and turned on over my head, my brain and my eyes would perceive these lights as daylight, as sunlight. And as a result, this would be suppressing my melatonin production. It would be keeping me kind of wired but tired, stopping me from winding down, actually really damaging my eyes as well. Now, what I do at home is turn all of these kind of lights off in the evening. You can also use light filtering programs for your computers and devices. So I'm going to share more about that in a second. And you could also use something called blue light blocking glasses, which is something we've been doing with this local organization that I'm going to share in a moment, or sleep friendly styles of lighting. So things that don't contain a lot of blue light. So candlelight, for example, very similar to firelight, contains very, very little, if any, blue light. Or there are now sleep-friendly kind of coloured lighting available for the home. So I'll show you a little bit about the end about what our organisation is doing in terms of providing amber and red lighting for companies and individuals and families to help them to sleep better. But what it's important to do largely, guys, is to reduce your exposure to this artificial light, and particularly to blue light from LED screens and lighting around the house. And just this one step alone will allow you to begin to wind down much easier in the evening. You'll feel less kind of wired as you approach bedtime. And as a result, you're going to be producing anywhere up to 2 times as much of your sleep hormone. And you're going to be waking up just feeling a lot better every single day, just from this one change, or these 3 steps essentially, to improve the quality of light that you're exposed to throughout the daytime in order to charge and I suppose synchronize your body's biorhythms, this 24-hour rhythm, to how nature intended. Now, I mentioned health tech and ways that we can begin to use kind of modern technology to improve our sleep. There's a lot of devices out there that claim to track the quality of your sleep, the depth of your sleep cycles. We've got Apple Watches, we've got Fitbits, we've got Oura Rings, we've got Whoop straps, we've got all sorts. And the truth is that a lot of them are very, very inaccurate. Some of them are far more accurate than others, and I actually prefer a device called the Oura Ring, which I used to have until unfortunately I lost it. But they've shown that this has a very high degree of accuracy when compared to big clinical machines, big electroencephalograms that they attach to your head to measure the quality and changes to your sleep. But outside of some of these devices, things like Fitbits, things like Garmin watches, Apple watches, they are notoriously inaccurate. Which is interesting because the health tech industry is exploding, increasing exponentially. I think there's something like 6.5 billion pounds yearly, I think dollars, in fact, spent on health tech devices, but we're not sleeping any better. Now, a different kind of brand of health tech is looking more at how we can adapt the light in our environment. So one thing that I cottoned onto about 3 or 4 years ago, when I personally experienced the period of poor sleep that led me into these areas of research, was the impact of something called blue light blocking glasses. So what you see on the screen here, guys, is 2 different types. We've got some red lenses with a clip on, and then we've got some amber lenses on the right-hand side. And the idea being that the different colored lenses can filter different wavelengths or different colors of light. So along the bottom on the graph on the left here, we have all of the visible wavelengths of light to the human eye. So we've got the purples, the blues, the greens, the yellows, the ambers, and the reds. Now, anything blue and green has the potential to block out melatonin, which is our sleep hormone. And that is because blue and green light are abundant in sunlight. So when we're exposed to lots of sunlight, this is very energizing and stimulating. But when we're exposed to LED light, which also contains a lot of blue and green light, this has the same impact. So what we want to do in the evening is really to ensure that our environment only as much as possible includes light in the yellow, red, and amber wavelengths. And one of the strongest ways to do this and to block out the wrong light signals from hitting your brain and disrupting your sleep is to wear blue light blocking glasses, or to use programs for your devices that can filter or remove or reduce the blue light that comes from your smartphones and laptops. So I'm just going to pause for 1 second to give you guys an example of that. Now you can all see me on my screen. You can see my mobile phone. And when I triple click the button on the side of my mobile phone, that activates a shortcut that takes all of the blue and all of the green light out of my phone device. So when I triple click that, you can see that switches settings. Now, this is very different to the night shift mode that is available on Apple devices and on Windows devices, which only reduces a small amount of the blue light, because what these red glasses or the amber glasses or this setting on my phone are doing is they're removing 100% of the blue light, so that in the evenings, my brain can produce as much of the sleep hormone melatonin as humanly possible. Now, let me just explain a little bit about the research behind these glasses. So they're very kind of unknown piece of equipment at the moment. They're very big in kind of progressive, holistic health circles in the US and in Australia, where they tend to be a little bit ahead of the UK and Europe in terms of their health and health legislation. But what we know is there is research out there already showing that people who wear these amber blue light blocking glasses could produce up to 50% more melatonin. They could, as a result of wearing them, have improved mood and improved sleep quality compared to people who didn't wear them. That in particular, teenagers who wore them saw an increase in their sleep hormone production and a decrease in attention alertness before bedtime. And also, there was a study done with university students which showed that they woke up less during the night and showed changes in areas of the brain that related to mood by wearing a pair of these blue light blocking glasses. And it's really simple, guys. Essentially, our environments are bathed in the wrong types of light. Light that we've seen very energy efficient, but light that we have unknowingly kind of sabotaged our sleep quality with and sabotaged our body's 24-hour mechanisms and our circadian rhythm. And these glasses are almost like the low-hanging fruit, the easiest way that we can bring our bodies and our sleep back into alignment by blocking out the ability of the wrong types of light to hit our eyes. So these glasses are awesome. I bought my first pair for about $150, which is ridiculous, about 3 or 4 years ago. And I decided in that moment that almost everybody in our society needed a pair. Whether they were an adult, whether they were a child, everybody could benefit from using a pair of these glasses in the evening. And if I could improve everybody's sleep by even 10% just with a pair of glasses, what impact could that have on our society at large? So we've been providing through our organisation these glasses for quite a while now, but more recently we've been running a trial with a local organisation that's also based in the UK, who's working in the States of Guernsey, called Agilisys. And so what we did was I came together with my partner and the organisation, and we decided to deliver not only sleep education workshops and access to my online sleep program, but also pairs of adults and children's blue light blocking glasses. So what I would do is I would deliver these workshops, we would provide the glasses, and then I would guide and support the individuals in this organisation and through a trial over a period of a month to see how we could improve their sleep and their overall health and the impact that this would have not only on their work, but also on their personal life and their relationships. And we've been able to collect some simple data measurements at the beginning and end to demonstrate the impact. Now, just to give you guys an idea of the trial, I went in and delivered a 90-minute educational session and gave them access to our online learning platform. And we also collected data relating to adults and also their children's sleep. And they also received their blue light blocking glasses. The next week, I went in and delivered a slightly different training workshop. And then we left them to get on with it for 3 weeks. So we asked them to wear their blue light blocking glasses for 3 hours prior to bed, and then to continue exploring my online learning platform so that they can learn more about how other aspects of diet, lifestyle, exercise, relaxation, breathing, meditation, loads of other things that can impact our sleep. At the moment, they've been going through this trial, and at the end of this week, we are due to collect the final data and responses. But based on the feedback that we've already had from people taking part, as I see them every week, they found the glasses to be like a phenomenal first step tool to improving their sleep quality. So there are people taking part whose sleep has been fragmented and has been broken for as long as they can remember, and who are now achieving much healthier and much deeper sleep. A lot of them just as a result of wearing the glasses and spending more time out in natural light in the mornings. These are some of the kind of core principles that we share at Sleep Better, Live Better. As well as that, we've been collecting data on their children's sleep. So we've been collecting that in the form of sleep diaries, where they've been kind of measuring their children's mood, their energy, their bedtime, and the total numbers of hours that they've been sleeping while wearing the glasses. And I've also given them access to our online program. So this is a kind of step-by-step journey and guide that I created, when kind of building the company, educating people all about every aspect of our health and our lifestyles and how this impacts our sleep. So they've had access to all of this, and we're really excited to be looking at the data and the results. Unfortunately, I can't share much with you guys at the moment, but that will be coming over the following weeks. So today, guys, was just a quick whistle-stop tour of some of the sleep stuff. I wanted to share some of the work we're doing in the community and the reasons behind that, as well as giving you guys an idea of why sleep is so important, and then some of these key tips and takeaways to improve your sleep. Now, before I pass back to the guys at the Digital Greenhouse, I would just like to show you guys some other really cool resources. So I'm going to provide this link to the guys so that they can send it out to you. But we've got some amazing free online resources, some free guides in particular that would help you to get started if you wanted to learn more about improving your sleep. So one of them is called Why Light is Just as Important as Food. And the other one is called How to Hack Your PC, your smartphone and your laptop for better sleep. So in these documents, I basically give a summary of all the information regarding light and sleep, and also guide you guys to implement the tactics or the little changes on your mobile phone or on your laptop, and how you can use the different programs to filter the light on your screen and begin to get better sleep from today forward. So I'd really recommend that you guys go and have a little look at that website, of which I said I'll send the link out. And then also, if you're interested in finding more about us as an organisation, you can jump on sleepbetterlivebetter.co.uk. You'll see our online program on there. You'll also see our range of blue light blocking glasses. So we have daytime and nighttime pairs. I'm actually wearing a pair of the daytime pairs now. These stop me from experiencing headaches and stuff in front of computer screens. And then I use the nighttime ones in the evening to improve my sleep quality. And we've got normal ones, all clip-on ones. And we also sell sleep-friendly lighting on there. So if you're interested in finding more about all of this stuff, we've got lots of blogs, lots of advice and information on the website, as well as our online program and products. Hopefully you guys have found that all interesting. Very, very short talk today. There's a lot more I could talk about in terms of sleep. I could be going for hours and hours and hours. But hopefully you guys found that useful. And please feel free to get in touch or in contact via our social media at Sleep Better, Live Better, or through you guys at Digital Greenhouse if you want to connect and find out any more.
Thank you, Dan. That was absolutely really fascinating presentation. There's quite a few questions that are coming through actually on the Q&A. So if you're happy, if we jump into those questions, if anyone else has any as we go through, please do pop them up in the box. So just the first one that's come through from Richard, he's asking about the night shift options on the phone. Do they help? I think you've touched on that a little bit, but I don't know if you want to just go into that again.
Yeah, sure. So with the kind of advent of all this research describing, quite frankly, the dangers of blue light exposure from artificial devices, this has led a lot of organizations, the Apples, the Windows of the world, to develop kind of safety mechanisms on technology. A lot of the latest smart TVs and stuff like that have it as well. The truth is that night shift mode is a bit like a filter on a cigarette. So back in the 50s, when all the doctors were saying there's no problem with cigarettes, and then they decided that cigarettes cause lung cancer, and then they decided to put a filter on the cigarette. But it's kind of the same. When we use night shift mode, we reduce the blue light by maybe 50% or 60%. But in fact, we need to reduce it by 100%, especially after sunset if we want to get better quality sleep. So with, like, for example, that little click that changed on my mobile phone, there's also a program which I will pop in the chat box for everybody to see. Attendees, there's a program called Iris that I use on my computer and my laptop. You can also get it for Android or for iPads and such. And that I think is a one-off payment of about $10 or something like that. But that can help you to reduce and filter all of the light. So in short, Richard, night shift mode, has some benefits. But no, it's nowhere near as beneficial as using the blue light blocking glasses or downloading some of these technology devices.
Excellent, thank you. And I think actually potentially the other half of that question is around daylight lamps. Are they a worthwhile substitute?
Yep.
Today, obviously, we're having a particularly non-summery solstice type week. Are they going to give you that benefit?
Yeah, so I can see there's two questions, one that's popped up from Rosalind and one that's popped up from Richard there. They both relate to the daytime lamps. So the answer is no, guys. There is no substitute for the benefits you achieve from being outside in nature and natural light. And despite it being overcast, despite it being cloudy, what the research shows us is that the light intensity, which we measure in a unit called lux, can be up to 10,000 times as bright outside as it is under kind of artificial LED lights. Now, these light boxes or SAD lamps or daytime bulbs or whatever we want to call them, if you absolutely cannot go outside, like there is someone tying your hand behind your back, or you start work at 5 a.m. and you cannot leave the building, these daytime lamps are necessary to help you tune your circadian rhythm. And in places like Scandinavia, where the light changes seasonally and stuff like that, a lot of the time they use these daytime lamps to help them to boost their mood and their energy. But just because the daytime lamp is very bright doesn't mean it gives off the same quality of light that comes from the sun. So even when it is overcast and cloudy outside, still 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, even 5 minutes if you can't make it longer than that, a little walk around the block or walk to work, or 5 minutes outside in the natural light is going to do far more for your circadian rhythm and your sleep than the daytime lamps are. So I hope that's helpful. Obviously, these daytime lamps are, they're another health tech that people can sell. There is some research behind them. The problem being that there's no real research behind sunlight. It's very hard to measure. You can measure the brightness of sunlight, and we know, we can infer from that point, what that type of lux or that type of energy does, and we know that it's the most beneficial, but we can't really study in a laboratory the impact of sunlight on someone's mood and alertness, whereas you can with these lamps. So that's, I think, why they get a lot of press. And that's not to say they're not useful whatsoever, but there are so many more benefits to spending time outdoors in nature, in fresh air, than just using the daytime lamps.
Excellent, thank you. And I think just looking at, obviously we're right on time, but thinking about the people who are on this call here, you spoke a lot around at the beginning of your presentation around presenteeism and the impact in a business. So if we do have people representing businesses on the call today, if you're thinking about actually how do you support your employees, what would be the top thing if someone is coming away from today thinking, right, I need to do something to work with my team to help support their sleep. I'm worried about productivity, but worried about health and well-being as well. What would your sort of main advice be, Dan?
Yeah, certainly. So, obviously this, you could go down many avenues here, right? And, we didn't get a chance to really speak into the impact that, our nutrition or our lifestyles or our exercise, or, all of these things also has on sleep. But fundamentally, there are many things that employers cannot control about an individual's lifestyle and their habits, but there are things that can be changed and impacted. So that work that we've done with Agilisys, Richard Hanrahan very well, he said, it's a no-brainer for us to provide our staff with these glasses. For them to be able to wear them and to automatically see an improvement in their sleep quality is, so tangible, so easy to access. Essentially, it's like the low-hanging fruit, as I said. What's been really interesting in terms of delivering sleep education with them as well is we're now beginning to change culturally how we talk about and see sleep in the workforce. So how we see, going for breaks in the afternoon, the importance of that, the ability to work more outdoors from home, and boundaries between, work-life balance, working in the evenings, things like that. These are all conversations that are now beginning to, bubble up within that organization as a result of them understanding more about light and about their rhythms and about how they can optimize their kind of cognitive performance, if you like, by getting not only the light right in their environment but also their sleep. So if I was in an organization, I would take a real interest in wanting to find out more about the impact that light had on my employees in particular, because as I said, you can't really control what they're doing at home, but if you can offer them a simple solution such as the glasses, or such as changing a few bulbs around the office, or providing them with licenses to that Iris program that can help them to adapt the way that they work with light when they're at home. And those are some of the first steps that I would definitely be taking that have a real tangible impact.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Dan. That's been a fantastic presentation. Everything today has been recorded, so we'll be popping the recordings up along with those links as well on the Digital Greenhouse website. We'll be emailing them out to everyone as well, with Dan's contact details too, if you have any questions for him. Thank you very much, and thank you, Dan, for your presentation.
No worries. Thank you so much, Lucy. It's been great.